Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show this Sunday. I'm glad to have you guys here. You know, I love America, all the way from the tip of Florida down to the Florida Keys, Key West, all the way up into the Yukon. It's all North America. And you know what? We've been betrayed. We've been betrayed by our political structure. We've been betrayed by people who are in places of power, and not only that, people that are in the financial system itself. They're all out for their own self-interest. They've corrupted capitalism to the point where it doesn't function anymore. You know, and there's a problem. There's a very big, huge problem with the money itself, and this is not going to end pretty. We are heading toward a cataclysmic crisis that cannot be avoided. And the reason why it cannot be avoided is it's in the numbers. Now, I'm on my channel every day. I'm documenting this crisis as it unfolds. I've been seeing it come for a long time, and because it's so huge, so overwhelmingly huge, this is the reason why it's taken so long to happen. I thought it was going to happen quite a while ago, to tell you the truth. But I know it has to happen. And the reason why is the money is corrupted. And you can see it every day with the disintegration of the purchasing power of your dollars. And that's what we use here in North America. We use dollars. Here in Canada too. We use the Canadian dollar. But it's dollars here in North America, you know. I'm going to tell you guys what. If you don't prepare for this crisis, you're going to be in a huge amount of hurt. And the next question is, when's the crisis coming? Well, you know, we're going to go through a little bounce back. And I've been forecasting this for a little while now, you know. And this is because of all their money printing. That's why the market won't go down. The market is just like it's just had a big hoagie sandwich, and now it's going to go in for the sundae. You know? What happens next? Well, next the guy gets sick. He has to go into the restroom and get sick because he eats too much. But it hasn't ate the sundae yet. And the sundae is all this money. You know, $1.9 trillion they're going to print. On top of the $2.2 trillion, and they haven't spent all the $2.2 trillion in the Treasury. They still, I think it's 1 point something trillion that they have in the Treasury of that original stimulus. They're going to be spending all that, and then a 1.9 trillion on top of that, and then the 900 billion on top of that. I mean, it never ends. What do you think that's going to do to our currency? And people are starting to lose faith in our currency already. Well, we can see that this is the rise of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is nothing real. It's a new technology, but the dollar is already digital. And you know, guys, I'm going to tell you straight. If they had protected our dollar, and if they'd managed it properly and done what they should have, there'd be no need for Bitcoin. Bitcoin would just die. Bitcoin never would have made it to begin with. It's their mismanagement of the fiat currencies is the reason why. You know, we were pegged to a gold standard. This is why the Great Depression was so much different than what's coming. Because we were pegged to a gold standard. And this is why they seized gold back during the Great Depression. So they could create more dollars. Because they couldn't create dollars just willy-nilly back then in those days, you know. Back during the Great Depression, too, people had a sense of civic duty, honor, pride, you know, and everything. And they weren't moral degenerates like we have in our society today that rely upon the government for handouts all the time. Did you know that 55% of the people out there right now between the ages of 18 and say 30, 55% of those people are living with their parents. That's what kind of society we have. They're relying upon the past generation to survive because they can't make it on their own. College degrees and things like that just do not cut it in this world that we have now. You know? But it's all heading up. This whole thing, all the problems that we have, is all heading up to a monster of a crisis that's coming. And yes, we're going to go through a little bounce back. We're going to have a little reprieve for a little while, I believe. Because of all this money printing. And it's the reason why is all the money printing. You know, and the whole world runs on money. And when you start injecting all of this liquidity into the system, it's going to start to be felt at a certain point in time. And then the banks might start lending on top of that to add icing to the cake, you know, and a big cherry on top with all this new lending and stuff they're going to do. It will stimulate the economy. But it's going to start something called the acceleration phase. So this summer, the economy might start to look a little bit better. And I know all these guys out there right now are preaching doom and gloom, you know. And me here on my channel, I'm preaching the opposite right now. I'm saying that we're going to have a little bit of an improvement. But don't worry, guys. The doom and gloom is coming. We're heading into something really bad and monstrously large. But after we go through this little period. You know, I've lost a lot of viewers on my channel. And the reason why is because I don't tell you guys what you want to hear. I don't always follow what all these other guys are saying. I sometimes tell you guys the things you don't really want to hear, you know. And so what happens is I lose a few viewers. But I have to stay true to what I believe is really happening out there. And what I believe is really happening is after we go through this little recovery period that we're going to go through this summer and leading into fall and probably lasting right through Christmas. And when we move into next year, that's when the real trouble's going to begin. Because we're going to enter into what's called the acceleration phase of a hyperinflationary depression. Now, if you guys don't know what that really means is, and what a hyperinflationary depression is, and how it differs from the depression we had in the 1930s. In the 1930s, they had restraints. They couldn't just print money abstractly in endless quantities. Now those restraints, those shackles are gone now. And they can print endless amounts of fiat currency. And they're going to. Because if they stop, or if they even try to stop for any extended period of time, the economy will start to roll over and then they'll have to start again. They'll get scared. And believe me, it is scary because there's nothing holding anything up. The whole entire economy could completely collapse and the power structure would collapse with it. Not just the power grid, when I mean power structure. I mean the political structure, the Wall Street, everything that they've arranged for themselves. This whole, it's like an infrastructure out there, guys, that supports the entire system, but that infrastructure also supports all these people who don't have to really work for a living. They just push a button or they just, you know, print endless amounts of money, or they're in there in these offices where they've gone through all these college degrees and stuff, and they've got themselves in a cushy position within government or within the political structure or within the Wall Street structure, and they got ample of everything right now. It's this structure that supports them. But that structure is all held together with money. And if they let this thing start to disintegrate, it'll go into something called deflation. If they don't print, if they stop printing, it'll very quickly go into deflation. And this really frightens them because this can actually escalate out of control and tear their structure apart. The structure that they've put in place so that they can keep sucking from us. It's like an invisible prison that we're all in, that they've created. And that the webbing of that prison that they've created is all money. And so deflation can actually start to tear that prison apart. But it would also tear everything else apart, I can't begin to tell you guys how quickly deflation can move through the system. It frightens them. Because remember back in 2008 when we had the 2008 crisis, they said they were only 2 hours away from the system starting to deflate. And what can happen is margin calls and everything can go out. And there's something that's called marked to market. So if you've got a house or something, or if you've got a business, and say the bank comes in, they give you like a floor plan for your business. And what they'll do is they'll do an assessment of what your business is worth. They might even take inventory of all your inventory. Say you got a store. They'll go through and they'll take all the inventory. They'll assess the real estate location, location, and they'll come in and they'll have an assessor appraise the entire business operation in your floor plan, how much it's worth right now, right? What mark to market basically means is when margin calls and everything starts to go out, and everything, they start to foreclose on everything. Basically, it's a fire sale sort of an idea. That's what marked to market is. And they were frightened that the system would melt down, where everything would basically go into like margin call and mark to market. And they said they were only 2 hours away from that kind of a meltdown, where what's things really worth? If everybody's running for the exit and trying to get into dollars and just sell off everything in the entire world. You see, what would happen is that's a deflation. That's the everything bubble popping. And dollars would, not gold, not silver, not Bitcoin, but dollars in that kind of a situation would become very scarce very, very quickly. And the value of what a dollar can purchase would go up. This is what happened in the Great Depression era. People were working for 50 cents a day. It's the opposite of inflation. It's the opposite of hyperinflation. And it's threatening to happen to the world. It can happen extremely quickly in this kind of a situation where everything has been... It's the same way as when you blow up a big balloon. The balloon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the skin on the balloon gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And how long does it take for it to pop? Very quickly. When it pops, bang, that's it. You know? That's the way with our system that we have here. They've blown it up with more and more and more money, but it takes ever-increasing amounts. And it wants to pop. It all wants to pop. And they call it the everything bubble is because it's real estate, it's everything. It's the markets, it's the corporate bond market, it's the entire debt market, all the derivatives, all of the excesses that have been built into the system now that have gone beyond any measure of sustainability. It all wants to pop. And the only thing standing in the way from it popping right now is the central banks. And if they stop in any way, even slow down, it starts to go to pop. The whole thing starts to want to pop. So they have to keep pumping in ever greater amounts. It never ends. It's on an exponential. And I've done shows on this in the past, not that long ago, where I've said that the whole thing is on an exponential. The money has gone on an exponential. And so basically what I mean by that is this summer, you're going to see a little bit of a recovery from all this stimulus money, you know, and possibly the virus starting to retreat. It's already started to retreat, and I've been telling you guys about that too. You know, going back around Christmas time. Told you guys the virus would start to retreat probably in the spring. Well, it started. The curve started going down. The amount of new cases and everything else is starting to disappear. The next thing that's going to happen is we're going to see new shoots, basically, of people getting out there. People see opportunity. People will go to their bank and say, hey, that restaurant's closed. You know, I've used that example quite a bit. But it's the same way, I mean, with anything. All your streets, you've got buildings going down the street that used to be businesses, and now they're all closed up and boarded up with plywood. You know how quick that the banks can reloan money out to new people. New people come in, refill the store with inventory, take the plywood off the windows, and they'll want to hire new people. And that can start happening here, there, sprinkled across America, in every city. A bit of a resurgence back again. New vitality coming in. That's what I'm expecting going into this summer. But at the same time, you're going to see prices start to increase on everything really, really fast. Moving into 2022, that's the big one. Because I believe that all during 2022, it's going to be a massive... Let's call it a gold rush, guys. Gold and silver, if you've been stacking them for all these years waiting, I think 2022 is going to be your year. You know, and it's going to preserve your purchasing power. It's going to do its job, preserving your purchasing power. But what about everybody else out there? Because their wages aren't going to keep up. This monster of inflation that's coming in 2022, your wages are not going to keep up. And because this is not tethered, because they can do unending amounts of stimulus during 2022, they can to support everything, you know, and they got all this money in the system now. And when things start to look better, these banks out there are going to see opportunities too to make new loans, because that's how they make their profits, guys. So when they make a loan, they make that money new and fresh. And now the guy they just loaned it to, if they've lent him $100,000, now he owes them back $100,000 with interest, and it didn't cost them one penny. They just write a number in a book. And that $100,000 springs into existence. And so no wonder the banks make record profits. They make record profits if they're making record amount of loans. So once the economy starts to improve, the banks will relax. And they'll say, hey, you know what? The economy's improving now. This guy's come in and he's got a good idea. He's going to reopen whatever. Let's lend him the money, because that's how we make money. And that's the money multiplier. Next thing you know, the velocity of money starts to pick up. Going into next fall, look out for 2022, because we can't take this. At some point in 2022, confidence is going to be lost worldwide in the purchasing power of these fiat currencies, and the dollar is going to be the king. Confidence will be lost. Nobody will have any confidence. And what are they going to do? They're en masse going to start trying to hedge against the dollar. And this is the doom part of it all. Because you just can't take all of these people out there who got everything in dollars. 90% of the people around you, when you're in your community, most of them don't even know what silver is, or gold, or Bitcoin, or anything like that. They're going to have a sudden awakening in 2022 when they decide to hedge. But they're not going to pay what you're paying right now for these things. They're going to pay the price you pay when you wait too long. It's endless how high Bitcoin can go. There's no limit. The sky's the limit for gold and silver too. And they're not going to pay. You know, we've been so spoiled seeing silver price like $13, $14 an ounce. You know, we've been so spoiled. And now it's went up to like 20, what is it, 26, 27. And I mean, we're like, oh, that's expensive. Oh, that's expensive. Listen, guys, you haven't seen nothing yet. I mean, in 2022, silver could easily go to $1,000 an ounce when your friends and your neighbors are buying it, and they might have a hard time getting it. And what about gold? I mean, and Bitcoin by that time, it could be well in excess of $100,000. You know, and so if you've bought into these asset classes, they're not going to be able to afford. When they decide to buy, those 90% of the people out there in your community, when they decide it's their point, they're going to buy these things, they're not going to be able to get near as much for their money. And so if they got more money than you now, no sense. The dollar's on its way to zero. I know that's hard for you to believe, But if that transfer happens too quickly in 2022, if everybody rushes for the door and the dollar slides too quickly, it's going to cause massive disruptions, and you need to prepare for this. You need to do strategically, look at where you are on the map, and you need to say to yourself, hey, if I couldn't depend upon the grocery store for food anymore, if I couldn't depend upon the power company for power anymore, if I couldn't depend upon my internet provider for internet anymore, and if all of my friends and neighbors are going crazy because they don't have any food, they don't have any water, they don't have any power, what kind of a position am I in right now? What's the weather like in my area? What is the soil like in my area? Because you might need to grow things. What kind of a growing season do I have in my area? Is there any potential hazards around me? Things like nuclear power plants. What's my proximity? And which way does the wind tend to blow in my area from my proximity to any nuclear sites? You got to think about things like these. You got to think about water sources around your property, and also ways to protect your property from intruders. You've got to think about, there's just so much to all of this. You've also got to make an escape route for yourself. Where am I going to go if things get tight in my area and I can't possibly survive in my area during a crisis of this magnitude? Because it's going to be a worldwide crisis that's coming, probably toward the end of 2022. And you got to start preparing yourself mentally, physically. Now's the time. You got to start preparing yourself. And you don't have to do it overnight, because like I say, and this is what's going to get a lot of these preppers out there, is they've been preparing for something that's going to happen now. And they're going to see things get better. And they're going to think, hey, this is over. And they're going to relax their guard. Just when they're going to get walloped in 2022. Because in Christmas of 2021, and just on the edge of going into 2022, it's probably going to be good times again. Not as good as it was back in 2019, but halfway there, pretty good, not bad. Compared to this year, a lot better. And then the hammer's gonna come down sometime in 2022, and they're gonna have let their guard down. They're gonna relax. Maybe they had a little bit of food prepared for themselves. They might eat it all up, and be relaxing. Good times again, and then the whole thing's it's gonna be really bad in 2022. Toward the end, I think toward the end of 2022, and it all depends upon how fast, the speed this thing processes at, the speed the dollar loses value at. Because if it loses value too fast, that money transfer, it's called a wealth transfer, is going to happen too fast, and you just can't move wealth out of the hands of a lot of people into the hands of a whole different group of people without their businesses going down and without them having to everything has to be reshuffled, you see. And if you shuffle it too quick, the deck of cards flies all over the place. Anyway, listen, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday, and you guys just know it, that as time progresses over the next few months, I'm going to be detailing you more in. I'm going to get more information myself on just exactly what's going to happen in 2022. What I believe is going to happen in 2022. I'll have a little bit better timetable and everything as we progress into this year. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Ring that notification bell. And we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.